Hello, I am Anisha from Sassy Creations. Welcome to my backyard sewing space. Today I am going to show you how to do this neat little reverse applique. Since I'm in the backyard and my kids are all home, we will most likely be seeing and hearing them a couple times, maybe more than a couple, throughout this video. What we're going to do today is the Go t-shirt by KellyJDesigns. I am going to be appliquing a little train and a star. I did a star on the front already, so you may have seen that in the written tutorial on the Sew PDF Pattern Showcase blog. And on the back now, we're going to do with the video. For those who prefer video learning, we're going to do this little train here. I've drawn my template. What I did is I just held this fabric up to a window and traced it, and then I cut it out. So this is going to be for the back, and here I've got my back piece all cut out and ready to go. This fabric is from Buttons and Bibs Fabric and Patterns. Really awesome fabrics and patterns. Just throwing that out there. So let's get started. Alright, so I've got my back piece here. I've got my backing fabric cut out. I just used the template that I drew. One thing to note when you are sewing this is to use a contrasting thread. I did this one at first with the white thread, and it didn't show up very well, the star shape. It just kind of looked weird. So I went back and did it darker around it afterwards. This is the heart one that I did. Can you see? There you go. I think it really helps that I used a fairly contrasting thread so that you can really see the shape as well. So I want this to show up on the front. So this is the right side of my fabric. I'm going to flip it over. And so this is going to be face down now because I'm going to want to see it from the front. So I'm just going to place it maybe about there. So, and then I am going to pin that in place. So I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around. Can be a narrow one, can be a wide one. It's really up to you. It just needs to be a stretchy stitch so that it still has some stretch and give when the garment is being worn. So I sewed my outline now. Here you can see on the back. You might want to use some glue around the edges. I just pinned mine, so I got a couple little folds here. I have a walking foot on my machine, which makes it a lot easier to just pin. If you don't have a walking foot, I definitely recommend either glue or Wonder Tape around the edges to really keep it in place while you sew it. As you can see, I don't know if you can see, I got some little bunches here. Probably won't, actually it won't matter from the front, you won't see it, but just a heads up or a little tip. So now we got it sewn, we can now make our lines to sew along from the front. So you want to make your lines perpendicular to the grain. So here's my grain, I want to make them this way. Because knit fabric tends to curl towards the front when it's cut across the grain and towards the back when it's cut with the grain. So what I want to get is this curling towards the front so that you can see what's underneath. And in order to do that, I want to make my lines perpendicular to the grain. So what I'm going to do is I make my lines every every half inch. Every half inch, because that way I feel like there's a good ratio between what's visible from the front fabric and what's visible of the back fabric. And I lined up my top now with the with the grid on my cutting board, and I'm just gonna use my ruler and line it up every half inch with my cutting board. If I line it up with my line that I've already drawn, sometimes they can get skewed. So I'm just gonna do, this is centimeters and this is inches, but I'm just gonna go with my inches on my cutting mat here. So now I've got my grid lines traced out. I'm going to go back over to my machine and sew across those with a zigzag. I'm going to backstitch at each end to make sure those stay nice and secure and don't unravel. And yeah. Alright, so we followed the lines. Now we're going to snip these little tails. Okay, so the next step is to now cut our beautiful fabric. So I've got my tiny little scissors here to help me make the first little cut. And here it is important to check or to make sure that you don't cut into your bottom fabric. What I do is I hold my finger underneath here, and just to make sure that I'm not poking through all of the fabric. And then these are kind of big, but they do the trick. So we're just going to cut small pieces out like this. Now, I cut out little ovals because that way there's not as much fabric curling up the front, and also then I can see what is underneath a little bit better. So especially for this kind now where I'm making here, where I have a print underneath and I want to see that print afterwards. So I might even cut a little bit closer to my stitching lines so that the print really shows up afterwards. Here you can see I'm just cutting along the lines here. So, and I'm just cutting out ovals like that. You can cut more, you can just cut a slit as well. It's totally up to you what kind of look you're going for. Another useful thing is to have, when you're doing this part, when you're cutting along, to have a scissor with not too sharp of a tip so you don't accidentally catch the bottom fabric while you're pushing them through. There we have it. All nicely snipped. You can already see the train a bit underneath. Now it's still really flat. You could just run your hand over it a little bit, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to my ironing board and give it a good steam, and that'll really curl those edges up. There we go. So here you can see that you can't really see the outline here. So I think I will go back over it with a lighter color to get that basic shape more visible. I'm going to leave these ones the way they are. But with the steaming and a little bit of running my hands over it like this, it really curled those edges nicely, and the train underneath is nice and visible. And there you go, so you can see the difference between having the dark outline, which you could barely see, and with the white outline, it really brings it out more, makes it pop more. I totally did that on purpose. And we're done! Thank you for watching, everybody. Once again, this is the Go t-shirt by KellyJDesigns. Please like and subscribe down below. And don't forget to check out the Sew PDF Pattern Showcase. And yeah, happy sewing!